is Mrabror. I am the Chief Specialist of the International Rankings Department. Thank you for agreeing to give us an interview. I would like to ask you a few questions. First of all, tell me about yourself, please.
Sure. Thanks for the interview, for the invite, by the way. I'm from Turkey, Istanbul. I was born there, lived most of my life there in Istanbul. And I went to the architecture school there, and I graduated as the top of my department. Then I started my master's degree in history and theory of architecture at Istanbul Technical University. Shortly after, I was hired as a research assistant at Istanbul Technical University again, and I worked there around 4 years, I think. Then I came here, so it's the brief summary of my past, we can say.
Okay, how did you come to the university?
Okay, this is an interesting coincidence actually. First, my dad came here in Uzbekistan. He's a textile engineer, and they had a convention, I think in Tashkent, at a hotel. I don't really know details, and he met our former head of the international relations department. They randomly started chatting, and he mentioned that they're looking for an architect, an academic for this university right now, Transport University. And they exchanged, cart visits, and my dad mentioned me about it. I was interested. I started talking with them, the former head of the department, and then our vice rector, Bahadur Jayev. So we agreed on the terms, and I came here.
Okay. When you started teaching first, what major challenges and problems did you face, and how did you handle them?
You mean first in like ever?
Ever, yes.
Ever. I mean, I didn't really have a big challenge when I started teaching at Istanbul Technical University, but I can say for here that the biggest challenge was the language barrier, because I was supposed to teach in English, and I understand it's not really easy because I also studied architecture in English. So even though you're fluent in English, you cannot know all the technical terms, so I really understand it. But the major one was the language barrier. Not all the students knew English very well, so that was the biggest one for me.
Okay. So, what do you think about our students?
Well, I mean, I can talk about my students this semester specifically. I really like them. They're really hardworking, and it is always so fun, and it's a great pleasure to teach them, especially AutoCAD. I'm teaching AutoCAD this semester, so I really like teaching them, being their teacher, you could say.
Okay, our students is nice, also hardworking. So, what percentage would you rate the infrastructure, teaching system, conditions of the university, Transport University, for students in comparison with the universities you have worked in?
Previous universities?
Yes, previous.
Well, I mean, I've worked at, again, Istanbul Technical University, so it will be a bit unfair to compare it because it's a very prestigious one in Turkey, and they had this, history of education, higher education for 250 years. So they have a lot of, facilities, and if I would like to compare it here, it will be a bit unfair. But for here, I can say that it's developing rapidly. Even though I have some, we don't really have enough classrooms, maybe, or maybe not all of the classrooms or offices are not in the best condition. I can say that the rector himself or vice rectors are trying their best to change the conditions to make it better. And
that's right.
Yes, and they're doing their best. So I believe it's going to happen. The change is going to happen for the best very soon.
So you can give your advices to have a better classes and also.
Yes, actually that's one of my plans. I can say this.
Okay. As an architect, what are the criteria to pay attention to when organizing university courses in relation to the civil engineering, and what advice can you give when organizing foreign groups at the university? Does it take long to set up? does it have a long time to set up?
Well, after I came here, this was one of the first things that I realized. Like normally in Turkey, architecture departments and civil engineering departments are totally separate, but here they're mostly together, like taught and also taught and think like together. So it was a bit of a challenge for me because normally for architecture in Turkey, of course we learn the technical features and how we should build a building for sure in the technical terms. But I would say it's much more artistic in the creative side compared to the civil engineering. Whereas here I realize it's a bit of a mix. So we also do architectural design here, but mostly focused on the technical side of it. So again, that was a bit of challenging for me as well. So I went back to my previous knowledge that I learned from the architecture school because during my academic career at my previous universities, I mainly focused on the design side. So I had to go back to the previous knowledge that I got from my bachelor degrees about more technical terms, and I created a new curriculum and study plans for me. So that happened like this.
Okay. So, as you mentioned above, what are your goals as a research assistant of the civil engineering faculty?
No, general goals. If you're talking about the faculty specifically, as I mentioned in the previous question, that the biggest challenge for me was the language barrier. So I would actually want our students, not maybe only specifically for the civil engineering faculty, but for the whole university. I would want them to be able to speak English fluently. So it's not only for me or the foreign professors that are working here, but also it's the best for the students, because I know most of our students want to be very successful in their careers, and if it requires them to travel abroad, not only maybe Russian-speaking countries, but any other country in the world. So English is the most spoken foreign language. So that can be the basis of the start, and it's not only for the working, but also finding resources. Because if you learn a new language, especially English, most of the academic resources are in English. So you get to have the chance to reach more resources to, gain more knowledge about your future studies or future professional work. So I would say that will be the basis of it suggests in general.
So then what resources will you need at the university in general? What resources?
In general, I mean, right now I'm teaching AutoCAD lessons, and I'm teaching at a nice computer lab. So I'm happy using this computer lab. In general, well, maybe I can talk about the campus overall, because not only specifically for me, but also for the students and other academic professors or staffs mainly. We don't really have all the facilities here that makes a university, I would say. It was again one of the first things that I realized when I came here. It's an amazing campus. I love the feeling being here. It's we have this main big building in Soviet style. So it is very fascinating being here and feeling this atmosphere as a academic, I can say. But we don't really have enough facilities, especially for the students, I can say. I feel like they're not really living the university experience. University life, yes. I mean, maybe they can have more facilities like cafes, restaurants, and student clubs, libraries. I mean, this is a nice library. Yes, we're in the library right now.
A little bit enough, but not enough.
Yes, I mean, this is a nice library, but maybe we can, add more libraries and maybe bookstores a bit, like mixed use. It can be a bookstore, but also a cafe together. So we can also work on that. So, with these new type of buildings or structures at the university, I'm sure students will also enjoy it more. Not only the students, also academics or all the officers
All the
as well.
Okay,
Yes.
professors.
Mhm.
So it is really we have limited resources. How would you deal with the more limited resources or facilities compared to what you anticipate for your project? For example, you have lessons, architect lessons, or how would you deal with the more limited resources?
You mean like teaching resources,
Yes,
teaching materials,
resources.
right?
What do you think? Can you use sources we have?
I haven't tried yet. I mean, if I'm being honest, I've been using my own sources that I had back in Turkey, or I was doing my online research, researching the academic sources online. So I haven't really tried using the resources that we have here. I remember asking once, I wanted to start my research on the history of Tashkent specifically, the architectural history, of course, together with politics, like it's all aspects of, sure. And I remember asking some people here, like, do we have resources in English here? And they said, okay, maybe I can check for it. And they came back and said, no, we only have in Russian or Uzbek. So this is one challenge for me. So if I want to come to the library, I won't be able to find English resource that I can use from.
So we should improve English resources more. Yes, yes. I agree with you. Can you tell about your extra lessons at the university?
So this semester again, as I told you, I'm teaching AutoCAD courses. We started from the beginning. We opened the course for not only for the civil engineering students, but also to the main, the university. Yes, I have students from logistics or business, all different types of departments. As long as they are interested in learning AutoCAD, it's fine for me. So I mainly teach AutoCAD for the architectural use of it, architectural design and technical design of the buildings. I'm also going to be starting another course. This is going to be about the innovative approaches in architectural design, and we'll be focusing on new approaches, new technological approaches in architecture. For instance, green design, sustainable design in buildings, not only in buildings, but also developing cities, all the city planning, urban planning. And we will do a workshop, and hopefully we will create good projects, bring out good ideas, how we can improve our environment with the new technological use of architectural ideas, I can say.
So I can advise that our students need only at the time only in English courses. Our students should hear English lessons more and more, and then you can add the extra courses in English also. So what are your goals for the future?
Future in general?
In general, yes.
Okay, so if I'm talking about the academic career, first I mentioned briefly that I want to do research on the history of Tashkent and Uzbekistan in general, not only for like the ancient times or the classical times that I can say, but also for the Soviet architecture, because I realized there's not too many research in English, of course. It's the one I can read and research on the Soviet architecture, the Soviet heritage here. So I wanted to start from the beginning maybe and read through the Soviet architecture and come today's architecture. And I would like to look at the like possible effective ways how we can use our today's knowledge, today's technology, and combine it with the cultural codes here. So because I believe as an architect, like if you only do a modern building, modern looking building, you might be losing contact with the cultural heritage that you're designing the building for. And Uzbekistan has a beautiful cultural heritage. It's very vast, you know, history.
Have a big history.
Big history. So I believe it will be an amazing job or amazing task if I could do it, if I can handle it, if you know if we can find ways to make a connection between the past and the future.
It is symphonic.
Yes,
Symphony.
sure.
It
sure.
will be symphonic mix of our skills, our knowledge.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
That was the last question for you, İpek Hanım. First of all, thank you for taking the time to do the interview. I hope that the above mentioned points and suggestions will have a positive effect to our university. I wish you success in your business here. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.